Hello and welcome to the final Kelly and Wrighty of 2024. I'm here with Benty to reflect on all the festive football that's been happening and still to come.
Loads of chocolate, loads of food, loads of football, buzzing.
Just perfect. We're going to start with Liverpool, who are ending the year top of the tree thanks in part to the continued fantastic form of Mo Salah.
Nottingham Forest have also continued their fantastic form, putting them in the hunt for European places, along with surprise outfits Fulham and Bournemouth.
And 3 games in, it's all looking sunny in Wolverhampton for Vitor Pereira, who's taken 7 points from his first 3 games in charge at Molineux. But we'll start by giving you a little reminder of all of which means, as we've said, Liverpool are top of the table as we head into 2025. They are 8 points clear of second place Nottingham Forest, and they are 9 and 10 points clear of Arsenal and Chelsea respectively, who've played the same number of games now. City are back up to 5th after just their second win in 14 games, although that could change if Newcastle get 3 points against Manchester United. They play tonight. Speaking of Manchester United, they're in 14th. They're behind West Ham, despite their heavy defeat by Liverpool yesterday. Wolves' recent form means they climb out of the relegation spots, but the situation looks worse by the week for bottom club Southampton. They only have 6 points at the halfway stage of the season. But we're trying to keep things upbeat here in the studio today because we're right in the middle of the festive fixtures, coming to the end of the festive fixtures. Flo Lloyd-Hughes is here, Sean Wright-Phillips is here. Benty, it's always a great time. It's actually not been as congested as it normally is at this sort of Christmas, New Year time. And we've still got 3 games to come tonight and Arsenal to play on New Year's Day. There's still more to come.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a fantastic kind of period. I can't quite keep up with the kickoff times, though, because kickoff times are all over the place. So I'm constantly checking, well, who's playing now, who's playing then. But I love it when there's so many games, especially when the league is as it is at the minute, where you've got surprise packages, teams in positions where you're going, well, how are they there? It just makes for a team that, if you're struggling or you're winning, just getting amassing a lot of points in such a short space of time. And I love this period of the calendar. Yeah,
most people in the UK will have lots of time off around this time of year. So actually, most people don't know what day it is anyway.
That's a bit like myself, to be honest. But, no, I love it. Getting to spend time with the family, friends if I'm not working. Fortunately, I was on Boxing Day, but shot off and did the other part after. And just to eat food, have a few drinks, chill out, have a laugh, especially if your team's doing OK. If it isn't doing OK, then it can spoil your day, as you know, Flo.
Yeah, and I think to follow up on what you were saying, Kelly, about not knowing what day it is. When teams played on Boxing Day, you think, oh, they're playing again already. It's only been 2 days. But actually that momentum, I think, is really important for some teams. And then the intense fixtures, as you guys will know, if you're a player, recovery time, we start to see those injuries come and then it gets really difficult for some managers.
Yeah, one of the teams who've had a really good festive period, in fact, have had the best season so far, is Liverpool, who find themselves 8 points clear of second place Nottingham Forest, who we will come on to. I know they've played a game more than the teams around them. But what a festive period it's been for Liverpool and what a season it's been so far, just 1 game short of halfway for them.
Yeah, they've been absolutely unstoppable. I think Arne Slot deserves a lot of credit. He's come in. I don't think too many people would have put them to be in this position. I think a lot of people would have probably said City are the favourites again this season. Arne Slot's kind of coming under the radar, not changed too much, kind of let the players do what they do, tweak 1 or 2 little things. But he's getting the best out of all these players. I mean, when you look at the situation Liverpool find themselves in as well, with the contract situations, these players have gone to another level. It's almost like you get players sometimes when it's the contract negotiation times. If they don't get what they want, they're down tools. They go, do you know what, enough's enough. Their players, probably the 3 best players who've performed this season, Salah, Van Dijk and Trent. It's been superb for Liverpool. And at the minute, it's theirs to lose. I know people have said, well, it's not quite over yet, we're only halfway, but I can't see anyone stopping this train anytime soon because Salah looks like he's going to score every single time. Defensively, they're rock solid. They're getting goals from midfield. The blend in midfield is good as well. I just think the only thing that could derail Liverpool this season is injuries. And you don't want to see any players get injured, but that's the only thing I can see because at the minute, they're just full steam ahead.
Do we reassess this squad now? Because when Jurgen Klopp was leaving, it was like, well, they're going to have to make some changes, maybe going to have to freshen things up. There were a lot of grumblings when Chiesa was the only signing over the summer, and actually he hasn't featured for Liverpool. So do we reassess the quality of the squad?
No, I think that quality that's in there, and I think for whatever reason, the way the manager has them playing, you're seeing the best of all those qualities. I think they've had 10 or 11 players that scored within the Premier League season. And normally teams that have that many goal scorers do go on to win the Premier League. They're not just relying on Salah. So as well as he's playing, there's still no pressure on him to score that important goal because other players are popping up and doing it, whether it be Curtis Jones, whether it be Jota, Diaz, Darwin Núñez, they're all chipping in. And when you're not leaking as many goals as well, like you're in the driving seat and it's all down to them now.
Yeah, clean sheet yesterday against West Ham, which they will be grateful for. I think it was something like 9 goals conceded in their previous 4 or 5 games for Liverpool. So that defence had just started, even though it was the second best in the league behind Arsenal's, it just started to look as though it was, perhaps was a little bit vulnerable. But to pick up on Sean's point about the goals, 5 different goal scorers against West Ham as well.
Yeah, and especially players like Cody Gakpo, who I think a lot of people were excited to see when he arrived last season. But we probably didn't see enough of him or see the best out of him. But now under Arne Slot, he is just coming to his own. The link-up play between him, Diaz and Salah. I mean, the way that I think that Slot has made them just so much more free-flowing going forward, the way that players can drift inside, push ahead, play beyond and play in each other. They have so many ways that they can hurt opposition teams, and that makes them so difficult to play against. And then you've got the form of someone like Mohamed Salah, and that just takes it to a whole nother level.
Do you know what it is? It's almost like when you look at the 3 positions up top, obviously one set in stone, and that's that right-hand side, that's Salah. He plays week in, week out regardless. But it's the way they can play Diaz as the false nine, or Darwin Núñez. I've always thought Gakpo, if you look at his best form, certainly when he plays for his country as well, it comes off that left. I don't think he's a natural centre-forward. To be able to interchange 4 players in 2 positions, if Darwin Núñez isn't doing that, okay, Jota will play. If that's not working, okay, Diaz, you go and play down the middle. It's just so many ways, and I think, again, it's testament to the manager because, again, when you've got a squad full of superstars, sometimes you get 1 or 2 players that are unhappy, I'm not getting as many minutes as I want, why is he playing more than I am? Every single time they get an opportunity to play, they take it, and as I said, I really think, by injuries, I just don't see who can live with that front 3 because they've just got so many options in so many different positions.
Whichever that front 3 is. And that's what I think is quite interesting about how he's used his forward players, is that, as you said, some of them have benefited from maybe playing out wide and sometimes playing through the middle, whereas Cody Gakpo, who moved around a lot under Jurgen Klopp, Jurgen Klopp, is now actually more than likely going to be playing, out on the left-hand side and coming in. And so he's got a more fixed, but even if it's not fixed within the game, but he's got a more fixed starting position.
He has.
So some players are allowed freedom, and some players he's given a bit of stability to if they need it.
A little bit, but again, if you look at Gakpo, certainly in the Euros for Netherlands, I thought he was their best player coming off that left-hand side. I thought, well, that's why don't you play him there more often for Liverpool? They tried him down the middle and it just didn't work. So you've almost got 2 players now. Salah, his position, that's his position. Gakpo on the left. Okay, there's your 2. You've got 3 then players that can play down the middle because I didn't think Diaz could play centre forward. But all of a sudden now he's playing that false nine. He looks incredible. But if you're Arne Slot again, he deserves all the credit because he's just managing to do it in a different way. And that's maybe why they've got more energy because they're conserving more. I mean, I love the young Klopp's football. Just get it forward as fast as you can. But now they're patient. But when it's time to get the ball forward, they do it really well. And he deserves a lot of credit.
Yeah, there was a patience to them at the start of the season that we sat here and talked about as maybe, look, it's not going to be as exciting necessarily as Klopp's football, and there is going to be a period of adjustment. But as Darren was saying, they seem to have found that balance. We saw it last week in the 6-3 against Tottenham. Patience to them at the start of the season that we sat here and talked about as maybe, look, it's not going to be as exciting necessarily as Klopp's football, and there is going to be a period of adjustment. But as Darren was saying, they seem to have found that balance. We saw it last week in the 6-3 against Tottenham. That if you want end-to-end football, then they'll play that as well. But it's knowing how and when to switch things up.
Yeah, in many ways that they showed a lot of those sides against West Ham yesterday, I think, personally, in terms of them being quite conservative, keeping the ball, but then West Ham wanted to kind of be a little bit gun-ho in the early stages, and Liverpool kind of said, OK, we can do that too, and end up...
And that's what he does. That's what he does best. Is that service. Yeah. You know that he's going to absolutely ping it. He can do the most incredible diagonal pass just with the freedom. I think the one question mark for me is Andy Robertson. I think he is probably the one weak link in this team right now, and forward they need to see if they're going to be completely bulletproof and go very deep into the Champions League. That's the position now where they're lacking. Still a fantastic player, but all of those hard yards that he's done over the last few seasons, I think we're starting to maybe see. But all of those hard yards that he's done over the last few seasons, I think we're starting to maybe see the impact of that, which is really difficult.
And he doesn't have easy games for Scotland either.
No,
So international level, they are tough
he's run
games.
ragged all the time. But also another player that Slot's kind of made into a 2.0 is Curtis Jones, who is now in this incredible advanced role and is keeping players like Cole Palmer completely quiet. That, I think, is just, I mean, it's amazing.
Do you know what?
Done there.
Gravenberch is the one. That's the one, because he was someone I looked at, and I wasn't quite sure where his best position was last season, but you could see that there was something there, the stride, the way he take the ball. This season, he looks like Patrick Vieira. I'm not trying to put him on the same level.
In the style of. In the style of.
You know, people will get carried away. He said what? But no, I think in the style of it, the way he takes the ball, he adjusts his position, he reads danger, he can drive with the ball forward. And I think, again, as you made a really good point about Trent, is that he knows by going in there, not only can he get back to his position, Gravenberch is more than willing to get himself back in there to help him out as well. So I think Gravenberch, the transition from where he was to now, I think that's the biggest danger, he can drive with the ball forward. And I think, again, as you made a really good point about Trent, is that he knows by going in there, not only can he get back to his position, Gravenberch is more than willing to get himself back in there to help him out as well. So I think Gravenberch, the transition from where he was to now, I think that's the biggest in their Liverpool squad.
And he'd played that way in the Netherlands, which obviously Arne Slot will know about, and there is that kind of what we think of as that Dutch system that those players have grown up in. Probably no surprise that Gakpo and Gravenberch are two of the players who are flourishing. Other thing that he's managing to do, at least at the moment, and the January transfer window is about to open, is keep those contract talks and the questions that he's asked about them quite light. It doesn't feel like it's something, certainly not the impression that he gives. We don't know what's going on behind closed doors. But it doesn't feel like something that's weighing particularly heavy on him. It's not necessarily how we're used to seeing managers deal with this kind of situation.
Yeah, what's quite interesting is it seems to be the players doing a lot of the talking and not the manager in regards to those conversations. So obviously Salah is asked about a lot. He posted on social media. He had that mix zone moment with some journalists. Van Dijk has also talked about it in interviews, which is really interesting that they're the ones like taking up a lot of the narrative and conversation. And the manager is being asked about it, but being very neutral and sort of taking it out of his hands. And obviously, there are conversations that are above him, those negotiations. At the moment, all of those players have been offered something, and now it's up for those negotiations to continue. But I do think it's interesting, essentially, leaving the players to have the power, because, like we've seen with Salah, he's in amazing form, but he's been quite vocal in his kind of comments about what he wants and how far away the two sides are. So if it wasn't for that form, it could be a very different narrative. But he is playing so well that you're not even really talking about the other side of it.
That's the thing. Far away is exactly the phrase that he used when he was asked about, you know, we know you're not going to tell us about what the actual situation is, but do you hope to have news soon? And he went, no, we're very far away in terms of what we're talking about. But in terms of the numbers that Mohamed Salah is putting up, I mean, it is just incredible. It's a goal or an assist every 50 minutes, which is, you know, extraordinary in terms of what he's contributing to the side. He's up there in terms of, you know, that every season he's scored 20 goals, and he's across all competitions, and he's already reached that now for Liverpool. 17 of them coming in the Premier League, 13 assists in that time. It's just reaching the numbers that he's reached consistently throughout previous seasons. He doesn't look like a player who's about to turn 33 and have a big drop-off, does he?
No, I mean, certainly when he celebrates and takes his top off and you see the patch is just there. But,
do you know what? I have never heard people talk so much about a player taking every pundit talks about Mohamed Salah taking his top off, and they're like, what? But he's really working out. He's doing well. Fair play to him.
No, he clearly looks after himself because he's in phenomenal shape. But, I mean, you're someone there who's consistent. For me, in that position, he's the best in Premier League history. If I'm picking the all-time 11, he's in that position because consistency, the numbers. And it shows how important he is, because when you talk about managing minutes and the amount of game minutes that players play, it doesn't really matter with him because he seems to play every single minute of every single game. But it must be a manager's dream because you know exactly what you're going to get. When you're plotting a Premier League season, you go, right, where am I going to get my goals going to come from? You almost go, do you know what? He'll look after himself. He'll get his 20. Now, where can I get the other, I don't know, 60, 70 goals to get to what I want to achieve? But he's been fantastic. I would give him the contract. You have to be careful by throwing everything at him because as players, you know what it's like, right? He gets that, then Virgil comes in, well, he got that, so I need this. Trent goes, well, hold on, you're giving it to them. And that's where you can get a little bit of friction amongst the squad. But I just think for what he's doing now, he's not let his standard slips, and he deserves to get the contract he wants because he's been that good since he got here.
We've been talking about this a little bit throughout this season, and I'm still not sure if there is a definitive answer to this. But can it benefit Liverpool having 3 players who are out of contract in the summer? Not long term, but for this season, you've got 3 players who are looking either to make a big bang in their final season or who are playing for big contracts.
Yeah, I think I've always found it strange that it got to this point, to be honest, originally. I think I normally understand it, it's like one or the other one runs out. But to have 3 of your key outfield players in a position like that, I think it's going to be hard for the club to make it work with all 3. I would see more of a 2 stay and 1 go. But in terms of just how it goes, like, I just, for me, hope Salah stays. It's the most enjoyable player I've seen play with a consistent smile on his face since he's been here. Yeah, this year he looks like he's actually enjoying everything. He missed the target yesterday and he was raging, but he was smiling,
He's not
with
on,
a rage.
I mean, I wouldn't say as far as a charm offensive because he's always been very polite, very amiable. But he is so lively in interviews. He's so sort of giggly and smiley in a way that I don't mean he wasn't smiley and pleasant before, but he's kind of... He's very bouncy. There's a kind of twinkle in him.
Yeah, it's like he's got another step in the way everything's going. I think it's delightful. I'm enjoying every minute of it.
Yeah, he seems much more chatty than he's ever sort of been, and maybe that's the confidence that his team have given him to be actually really transparent with the conversations that are happening, because often, as you guys will know, some players are advised to keep their cards quite close to their chest and don't reveal what's going on in negotiations. But with Salah, since the beginning of the season, it's been very, we are going to be on the offensive with the narrative. We are going to control the discussion. And maybe that's actually more freeing for him because it doesn't have to be so much kind of smoke and mirrors and quiet negotiations. It's very much, I'm going to tell the people what's happening, and maybe the pressure's off them because I'm going to say that and then let my football do the talking.
Well, he clearly wants to stay. Because you don't make up this amount of noise if you don't say anything, people might go, well, we're guessing. But the fact is, like, we're miles away. I think he's desperate to stay. And I think it would be a waste if he was to go. Again, no disrespect. If he went to Saudi, I think he's far too good of a player at this stage of his career to almost... I mean, he should be playing in the Champions League every season, competing for Premier League titles. He's shown that desire and that hunger that he wants to stay at Liverpool and continue to win things. He's all about breaking records as well. So he wants to break goal-scoring records. I think if he was to leave now, wherever he went next, regardless, I don't think he'd be as happy there as he would be now at Liverpool.
For you guys, for contracts, were you wanting to just keep that completely separate and not think about it, or would you rather be explicit about what's going on?
Do you want the real answer or the...
Yeah. You don't ever want it now. Whatever wants the most PG. Once a player, always a player. Even when you cross the divide.
I was so professional, never did anything wrong, etc.
To be fair with me, I just kind of stayed away from it.
Yeah,
I found it easier in terms of football and not thinking about, right, this is going to happen. What if I don't get this? What happens there? I just focused on the game, and in many ways tried to do, obviously not to the level of Salah, but tried to do what Mo's doing, just enjoy football.
So you'd have an agent working, and then you'd say, look, once you've negotiated something, come and tell me. I don't want to hear about all the process that's going on in the background. I don't want daily updates or anything.
No, I wouldn't. Like, once it got to that level, then I can see both parties are really keen on making it happen. Then it's something for me to either talk about or be happy. Like with my move to Chelsea, I didn't know anything about it. I just got told I've been sold. And then that's how the process started from then.
And you were that was how you wanted it?
No,
sorry.
No. But I mean, just in football, that's the way it can go.
You were so focused
but
on the moment.
I was so focused on just being a City player as a kid, as long as I possibly could.
Yeah.
When that sell came, I was at a pre-season friendly match, and they told me before the game that you've been sold and the car's waiting for you outside. And
that's the flip side of it. We look at players and talk about player power and how much influence they have and how much they're talking about their own contract negotiations. But the other side of it is that the clubs decide what they want to decide, and a player's future is determined by those decisions. There is one big factor at playing, you talked about the possibility of injuries for Liverpool. Obviously, Alisson was out for a long time. Joe Gomez was injured in the game against West Ham yesterday, so there might be concerns there. For Arsenal, when we're looking at the challenge, we know Chelsea have got this huge squad that they can pretty much change things around for their European games. For Arsenal, though, the big concern is Bukayo Saka, who posted a traditional thumbs-up picture from a hospital bed, but it's not good news for Arsenal. And we can't say how bad it's going to be because we have no real data to go on because he's missed so few games for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's so disappointing for him because he's playing as well as anyone this season. I know maybe his numbers are miles behind Saka's, and okay, fair enough, but he's been playing really well for Arsenal. But it was almost like, not that it was coming because you hope it doesn't come, but when you look at the amount of minutes that he's playing at such a young age, and that's not just for club, that's for country as well. At some point, he was going to break down. You don't go your whole career playing this amount of minutes and then think it's all going to be okay. But the fact that he's got this hamstring injury, it's a massive, massive blow for Arsenal because it was Odegaard first and Arsenal's form wobbled a bit. He's just as integral, if not more integral, because he draws 2-3 players and then that creates a space for somebody else. He's always ever present. Again, he's another one of those players in your team. You don't have to worry about, okay, Saka's on that right-hand side, so we need to figure out the other two positions. But now it's a case of someone else having to step up. Now, we haven't seen it yet. Gabriel Jesus, the last week and a half has been brilliant, but we haven't seen him for like a year or so, a couple of seasons playing at that level. Martinelli's been so inconsistent. Wanyeri can play out there, but it's not his natural position. Sterling's picked up an injury as well. So all of a sudden, you start looking at the bodies that Arsenal have got and you start thinking, well, can they maintain a Premiership run, Champions League run? They're in the semi-finals of the EFL Cup. FA Cup's going to start. It's a really worrying time, obviously, if you're an Arsenal player or connected to the club, but they've got to find a way to do it because, unfortunately, there's no excuses.
They play Brentford on New Year's Day. Chelsea also in action this evening, and they're within a point of each other, despite the injury to Saka and that wobble when Odegaard was injured. And Chelsea just keeping pace with Arsenal as the title race hots up, but right in the mix. And we have...
That's Arne Slot's record in all competitions since taking over from Jurgen Klopp in terms of the league. One more game to go and then we're at the halfway stage. Liverpool lead by 8 points already. And it's going to take an exceptionally good team to reel them in and some loss of form from Liverpool. Tim, I wonder from your point of view, from a manager's point of view, is the key the fact that he's actually changed so little? He's just done a little bit of tweaking here and there rather than any great revolution.
Yeah, I think so. The tweaking has come with Gravenberch, for instance. He's playing in that 6th position, gives him a little bit more balance and poise. Everyone was speculating he needed a player in that position. He's found one, and he was already at the football club. I think he's got a calm demeanour about him, doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low. We love Jurgen Klopp, but he was a big character, and then what I felt, for one, I was thinking, well, you don't want to follow him in there, but he's done it like a duck to water. I mean, he's absolutely magnificent the way he's took it. Everyone's happy at the football club. We've got 3 players, huge players. We keep talking about them out of contract. We're not talking about that really. You know, there are whispers about it. But as soon as they keep winning, no one will even talk about that until the time comes where they sign their new deals or they leave the football club. I tipped up Arsenal, didn't I? And I think I was sitting on here, but I've seen them live now. I went to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and saw them live, and I'm going to change my mind. It's theirs to lose. I mean, they are so strong off the bench as well. The firepower what they have. Mo Salah is a little genius. I mean, incredible. Van Dijk is like the player we saw 2-3 years ago. And Trent Alexander-Arnold, we're using them 3 as an example. He passes it, and he's like there with David Beckham with his range of passing. And they balance what they have through the midfield. And like I say, the firepower, the goals come from all different angles, not to mention the best goalkeeper in the world in Alisson. I can't see anyone getting anywhere near him.
And the fact that he's such a different character to Jurgen Klopp is actually a positive, isn't it? Because if he came in, and not by design, but he just were a sort of mini Klopp in the terms he was very voluble and very volatile and at times controversial, it'd be easy to compare him. But because he is so different in character, you know, he's just doing it his own way. He's just quietly going about his own business.
Yeah, one player that Tim didn't mention, Luis Diaz, I think he's starting to remind me, I mean, same but different in the way Firmino played the game. He's a different sort of player because he's tricky, but he's got a good football brain and he knows how to play the position. But yeah, I agree. I think the tweaks come from the style. I think the tweaks come from keeping hold of the ball a lot more patient, where Jurgen Klopp always said about heavy metal football. It'll be very interesting at the end of the season when you see distance covered, what the difference is between a Jurgen Klopp team and an Arne Slot side. But this is Luis Diaz getting his goal. And by the way, they could have been 4 up before they got the first. So the true reflection of this scoreline could easily have been 9 or 10. I thought they were that good. Luis Diaz involved again. Mo Salah with a brilliant bit of trickery. And alluding to your point there, Mark, as well, and it's difficult to second-guess the players and ask them how they're feeling, but they might just respond to a different voice, a calmer voice, where Mo Salah might like it a little bit more. Curtis Jones might like it.
Klopp was brilliant, but it must have been quite exhausting.
Yeah, but he had intensity about him, and he'd shout at the likes of Curtis Jones or shout at all of them. And all of a sudden, we've all played, me and Tim, in front of different managers or 4 different managers, and some respond differently, and some might respond a little bit better with a calming influence, more of an arm around the shoulder, tell them that they're great, put them in better positions, ask them and tell them to be a little bit more calm and enjoy the football, because as Tim said, when you look through the spine of the side and you look at every one of them, I mean, they're flawless. They're flawless in the Champions League. It's only Forest that's beat them in the Premier League. And they could have literally, if they wanted to today, I reckon they could have scored. I reckon they could have come away from this game thinking, we could have scored 9 today.
Yeah.
They had chances in the first half and 4 or 5 in the second.
Don, he's the icing on the cake. I mean, he's incredible.
Salah.
The numbers what he's put up since he's been into the Premier League is just incredible. But he's smiling again. All of a sudden, I saw him growling. I saw him arguing. And it was at this stadium when he was arguing.
Yeah, you
with
remember
Jurgen
the famous
Klopp.
bit about, I better not say what I want to say.
Well,
Him out of contract. I thought it was the beginning of the end for him at Liverpool. I really did.
I'd done a Liverpool comms in COVID, and obviously there was no fans in the stadium, so you could hear everything that was being said. And Jurgen was very vocal towards Trent, and Trent shouted back at the manager, and I thought, ooh, that looks a little bit sort of different, but they respected each other and they obviously loved each other. Maybe you should just start seeing now a group of players who are just absolutely enjoying their football, and Tim's nailed it. You're looking at like Mo Salah and Jota and anyone, Diaz, go through right across the team. They're loving playing game.
I mean, Gakpo's having his best season in Liverpool show, isn't he?
There's a great example.
Yeah.
You know, a calmer Arne Slot to Gakpo. Yeah. He's got him playing at a completely different level.
He threatens a goal every time he plays, doesn't he? You know, he certainly, I stuck him and captained in my fantasy team. I mean, because he always affects the game. He drifts in from the left-hand side. He's not just in there to deliver crosses. He drifts inside and he threatens. Every time goals you've seen there, where they're going from the heart, they're going straight from the width of the goal, trying to thread passes through. You see Diaz trying to thread through. An easy pass there, but he tries to thread one through. It rebounds off the defender and he's in the middle of the goal and he just smashes it in the back of the net. They penetrate at every opportunity.
Look at that's quite a list to be on top of, isn't it? It says it all about Salah's contribution to the team.
I asked him before, and it's a great pub debate when you're in the pub with your pals and you're chatting. And if you stood all the 3 of the players, you stand Van Dijk and Salah and Trent, all right in front of you, and you could say to 100 people, who do you think should be first? Who would you sign first? I'm in the Virgil camp. But you could say Trent.
I'd say Salah.
You could say Mo Salah. And none of us are right.
No.
And none of us are wrong because they're all 3 genius players.
Yeah. Will they all stay?
2 of the 3 will stay.
Yeah, I think
2 out of 3 ain't bad, as Meatloaf sang once upon a time.
I think from Trent's point of view, I mean, all we're hearing is whispers. We don't know, so we're second guessing. But
I wouldn't put it past them to win all 6 of those. And Forest are doing brilliantly, by the way. We're not writing off Nottingham Forest.
Trent's been at the club for 20 years, and he might just fancy a change.
Yeah.
But the feeling I get,
I think if you finish your career and you say I played for Liverpool, Real Madrid, and England, oof.
I'm back to Liverpool again.
Oof, that's about Liverpool. Listen, you played for West Ham and you played at Upton Park, and I went to Upton Park hundreds of times, many times. It was brilliant. The atmosphere, the intensity, the passion, the pride, all of that was missing today. All of that was missing, Don. It was a pale imitation of West Ham.
Bizarre, because a team that's been in OK form, not playing great, but unbeaten in 4. I thought they'd have come into this game with a little bit of confidence and a little bit of organisation and a will to go and try and beat Liverpool. I played in the West Ham side against Liverpool when I moved on, scored a brace at Upton Park, had something to sort of prove. I looked at a West Ham side today and I just thought, and I've said it before, a bit pedestrian, a little bit slow. Some of the goals, there was lack of tackles, lack of effort, a lack of organisation. That's what I saw under David Moyes, a team that was really organised, even though they took a couple of spankings, and he'll admit that himself. But there's teams now coming to the London Stadium, like Arsenal, who have been there twice and hit them a 6 and a 5 in the last season and a half. Chelsea went there and won 3, but that felt like it was a 5 or a 6. And I said Liverpool could have scored 9 today. There's something missing. I don't want to just keep saying it was the stadium when they lose the game, because stadium's the stadium, but it's not the same as Upton Park. It never, ever will be. I'd wonder if just teams are going there, like Liverpool, in this big, expansive stadium and thinking, let's go and play football today.
OK. Let's